Hello, I'm Mark.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Patrick.
And today we're going to talk about the reduction in battery costs. But first, let's roll that extended title. No, the short title. Roll the.
You're watching the Tesla Life Express!
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We wanted to talk a little bit about this news article that, of course, we always link in the show notes if you'd like to go and read it at your leisure. But this story was talking a little bit about how the price of battery packs has reduced dramatically over the past 15 years. We have a 90% reduction since 2008 or so to the 2024 of the cost of the battery packs. And of course, when we were back in 2008 or 2010 area, we were well over $1,000 per. What was the unit of measure?
Kilowatt hour.
Kilowatt hours.
It was usable energy. Yep.
So we were at over $1,000 per kilowatt hour, and we were told about the promise that we need to get to about $100 per kilowatt hour in order to get on parity with gasoline vehicles. So if we could reduce the battery cost by that much, we could be on parity with gasoline vehicles. Today, we're not quite at 100, but we're at 143 or so. So we've got a huge reduction, close to $1,500 when we started. Now we're down to about 143. So wow. Tremendous. What would you say?
Progress, improvements. Yeah,
improvements have got us to the point where we're at 143, and we're really close to the goal. In fact, there are many out there that say that with inflation that has happened, the cost of gasoline vehicles pretty well have gotten even with EVs. So, like we're real close. We don't have to get to that $100 mark in order to be even. If we get to that 100 mark, we're going to be below the cost of gasoline vehicles. So over time things shift a little bit, but this progress has been remarkable. I don't know if I would have believed myself back in 2010 when I started to get involved with looking at EVs as to whether or not we could get to that point within that short amount of time. But with volume, with more people coming online and purchasing these vehicles, with more manufacturers getting involved, with more brilliant minds entering the field, looking for solutions to problems that existed, we've been able to do this. And it's been quite a ride, and it's not slowing down either. We are continuing on that cost reduction path, not just in batteries, but in many other things as well. So I can definitely see that this is going to happen. We are going to go under the cost of gasoline vehicles. The battery will be one of the main components that does it, but there are going to be other parts that help us along the way because of the volume of them being produced. Electrical drivetrains, the motors themselves, all these things are now starting to be manufactured in mass, and the price is coming down because of that volume. And just like batteries, I can see that it's going to contribute to lowering the cost of EVs. And at some point in the near future, it's going to be, I'm not even going to consider a gas car because they cost more. And what a shock. What a day that will be for us that have lived it from the beginning or close to the beginning and watched the progression.
Also, a couple of years back, remember with the Bolt, GM got in trouble with LG for accidentally disclosing that they were paying like $110, $115.
That's right.
Per kilowatt hour. We don't know if that was raw sales or for the pack level. And then somehow it got back, and Elon said, "Oh, that sounds kind of expensive." And so that implied that they were already well below that.
Exactly. Let's share this graph that was put in the article here, and again showing in the time frame starting in 2008, where we've got the $1,400+ per kilowatt hour, and of course, working its way down to the 140-ish in this chart for the end of 2023. It looks like it's at about the 175, 176 area, but it's even dropped a little further into 2024, where we get the 143 number. So, and again, the two graphs here, the two lines on the graph showing inflation updated dollars compared to current dollars. So you can see both on the chart. Mm-hmm. But Patrick, back in the early days, say 2010 or so, were you confident that this type of reduction could even be done?
Absolutely. So even today, if you look at the news about EVs, you'll see article after article about lab breakthroughs and improvements in energy density. And all of those eventually convert into cost savings. So Tesla right now is working on the dry electrodes. That's going to drastically cut production time and the factory space, and all that has costs associated with it. Once Tesla gets it working, they have battery partners, then that technology is going to proliferate throughout the industry. And I wrote an article, it was Green Car Reports around 2010, talking about how this exact trend is going to happen, because it only takes, it doesn't have to be like Moore's Law where you have a doubling every 18 months to 2 years. It can be 5 or 10%, but you do 5 or 10% better this year and then compound that next year and do that again and again and again. And then you get something like this, where 15 years later, it's a tenth of the price that it used to be. And so that was, to me, like, okay, this is happening. EVs are the future. The only question is when, not if. It's going to happen, because like you said, Mark, gas cars are 100 years old. So nearly all the improvements you can make to the internal combustion engine have been long since wrung out on that thing. And so it's on decline. It's not going to get better, where EVs are on the upswing and they're going to be better. And at some point, I mean, there's early adopters because you like the tech or the environmental aspects or the performance. One of those things pulls you in before the normal person. But then the rest of the people, when they say, okay, can it do what I need? Yes. Can I afford it? Yes. Which one's a better deal? Which one's cheaper to fuel? Which one's cheaper to buy? That's the one I'm going to get. And they don't care about the technology underneath it for the most part. It's just, is it convenient and does it do what I need to? And so we're going to get to at that point where EVs, there'll be chargers at work. New homes are being pre-wired so that it's easy to install solar and or EV charging stations in the garage. And so it's inevitable.
But another thing that comes about with having this reduction in battery prices, you've got home battery backup, grid backup. You've got neighborhood microgrid battery backup. You've got it allows us to electrify all the things and not have to worry about the duck curve from solar. But the sun goes down at night, or the wind is not always blowing. All these energy is what has been fueling our society for centuries, and being able to have it on tap and have it clean, it's going to be sharp.
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah, that makes complete sense. That we have been electrifying everything for some time. It's just that transportation is the latest large piece of the pie that is being transitioned over to electrically driven. But as Casey mentioned, really what is happening here is that we need to have energy on tap when it's required. We have an abundance of energy with solar and wind and these renewable sources during the day when the sun is shining. And of course, it doesn't curtail with how it's being used. Yes, we have industry and things that are working during the day, but so many of us would like a little bit deeper into the evening, when people go home, when they're cooking dinner, when they're warming up their household, getting ready for the evening in the winter, and where you use more electricity. So having those batteries being able to store the electricity and then summon it at any given time, allowing the grid to function properly, is a huge win for society. And of course, the goal of getting more and more robust batteries, different chemistries, ones that can charge and discharge longer and more reliably. All these things are what people are working on. These people are trying to solve problems. Engineers are looking at what makes sense for the specific issue that our company has with it. We're trying to deploy batteries for home storage. We're trying to deploy it for grid storage. We're trying to deploy it for in the car itself. All these different people are working on solutions to make all these puzzle pieces go together and to have a robust electric network that can store whatever it's taking in during the day and to be able to distribute at a moment's notice when it's required at any given place in different locations of the continent, of the world. And these are all things that over time, just like this story has mentioned, the volume, the amount of people that are working on it are all contributing to lower the costs every year. As Patrick mentioned, whether it's 3, 5, 7% a year, that all adds up after 15 years of constant evolution of making these things better. Here's another cool little chart that was shared in the article that we will share here. Let me grab that. This, of course, is a chart showing the projected cost of the share of the battery pack in an EV. So the cost of the EV with the battery pack. So back in 2016, the battery pack was almost 50% of the cost of the vehicle. Now projected to today, it's 28%. So it's almost cut that in half. And projected to 2030, under 20%.
That's nice right there. Because when you look back at 2016, it was not uncommon to have just a middle of the road Model S cost over $90,000, and now look, a Model 3 you can have for right about $25,000.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, and you combine that with the incentive topic that we talked about earlier, and now you have this price reduction. It becomes very affordable to have an EV, whereas in 2016, unless you had some serious cash in the bank, you probably weren't driving an EV unless it was one you built yourself.
Yeah.
Or short range, like me and Mark.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Short range. Yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing. So as batteries improve, as they get cheaper, they find new markets. Like we just talked about energy storage, and there's going to be today there are some airplanes that you can buy or that are great for training. They don't fly all that far, but a big cost of learning to fly is all the fuel you have to pay for. Well, not if it's an electric plane, and yeah, it only runs for an hour, but that's okay. You're just doing short little training loops around the airport, and so the by 2030, maybe those are regional airports are using them. By 2040, it's coast to coast flights. By 2050, it's transatlantic. By 2070, it's trans-Pacific. And at that point, so every time that it improves, every time it gets cheaper, there are new uses. I mean, these are the ones that we can think of. There's going to be things that don't even exist yet that they'll find new uses for, and by the next decade. So this is pretty cool stuff.
And then you've got like the people complaining, oh, the grid can't handle the new houses and the EVs and this and that and the other. Well, if it's going to cost them $8 billion to upgrade your local grid, and only going to cost them, $200 million to drop, large battery packs all over the city, which one are they going to do? And one can handle the demand a little bit better, and helps to make it more resilient when you've got cuckoos shooting up the local substation or something.
Right. We've seen in Vermont that I think it's Green Mountain Energy. Yeah. They are subsidizing homeowners to get power walls. And as part of that subsidy, the contract is that they can tap on those whenever they need them for a virtual power plant. And, that's great. So you can do things like that. You can have batteries at every substation. You can have them at grid scale in central locations. There's lots and lots of options here.
Yeah, and as Casey mentioned, when someone says, "Oh, the grid can never handle it," all these EVs coming online, charging at night, we're humans are innovative.
Yes.
We don't just come up against a problem and say, "Oh, let's give up, forget it." The whole thing is, I'm just not bothering with this anymore.
Oh, it's too hard.
No. We maybe not you, but there are others that will go beyond that roadblock. They will look for ways around that roadblock, under that roadblock, over the roadblock, and they are looking for solutions, and they come up with little pieces of the puzzle that make this work. And when we all work together, the roadblocks are not insurmountable. They're easily passed because little bits of information about people's studies and figuring out what solutions can work for their particular problem, share that with groups of other people working on problems, and we're able to innovate our way out of these issues.
The same type of Luddite. The same type of Luddites. When people move from ice boxes that had literal blocks of ice delivered every day to refrigerators, they're like, "Oh no, the electricity grid can't handle that." After World War II, when people started installing air conditioners, "Oh no, the grid can't handle that." In the 80s, when personal computers started taking off, "No, the grid can't handle that." Every time, it's found a way. It's expanded. It's improved. It's been able to meet the needs of people. That's what it's there for.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing that this reduction in costs will help us do is it will allow us to get the classes of vehicles that haven't been able to be captured yet. You mentioned airplanes, but look at shipping. As like by shipping, I mean you've got trucks and boats. With them having, they use massive amounts of energy, and to replace that one for one with batteries has been kind of expensive. But now, with the price dropping on that, we found that an average truck or bus, they like to put about 125 to 300 kilowatt hours of batteries in them. Well, 100 kilowatt hours at, what was it? It was $100 or it was $1?
$100.
Yeah. So now it actually becomes feasible to make these other classes convert. And then again, if you put them on the grid, you don't have to worry about getting them charged up because you can do trickle charge the land pack and then dump that back into your truck. And then
as Casey mentioned, having dual purpose batteries, even better. Using it for grid storage when that school bus sits overnight for 12 hours doing absolutely nothing. Why not hook it to the grid and be part of the stabilization of the grid and be able to pull and draw from it anytime you want it, as long as that bus is at 85% in the morning when it starts its run at 7:45.
There 20 miles to come back sit again.
and of course, pay the person that owns the bus.
Yes.
Give them money back for when you're discharging their batteries, supplying the grid. Give them a piece of that, because that supply and demand is going to make them say, "Hey, listen, I got $400 this month for the grid using my bus back and forth. Why am I not moving all my fleet to these buses and make $400 per bus per month?"
Right.
It just pushes people in the right direction. And of course, that shores up the grid even better. As Patrick mentioned about Vermont with Green Mountain Power, distributing Tesla Powerwalls to thousands of residential communities allows those people to become a virtual power pack that can share when somebody needs that extra power because you're not using it. It can just go in, grab yours, share it with somebody else, help them get over a little bump in their use, and then they can send power back to you when you need it. Like having thousands of these on the grid just makes it more robust, a more solid grid, and something that, of course, benefits the power company as well.
Yeah, and then you've got all those children on that bus that Mark mentioned. Childhood asthma is a substantial issue right now. And where is the tailpipe on a diesel bus? It's at the kid's face. So now that's not a problem because you can more affordably move the bus over to electric. And then the whole argument about, everything is shipped on a truck. A diesel truck it's not possible without a diesel truck. Well, the electric trucks can do the same thing. And if you can make it so that they are something that the companies can afford to purchase, you also get a 2,000 pound bump in your carrying capacity on the OTR trucks. So
Right.
so now they can do more while costing them less in operation.
So let's turn it to our viewers now. Let's say let's ask the question. For example, where do you think the dollar amount per kilowatt hour will be in 2030? That's only 6 years away. Actually, it's 5.5 years away. What do you think that amount is? If today it sits at 143, what do you think it's going to be in 5.5 years? Put your information in the notes, in the comments, and we'll see if you're right. In 5.5 years, it's not far away.
Say $50.
Wow, that is something. But with that, Casey, what do you got for shout outs at the end of the show?
Well, catch us right back here on Wednesday for the live show.
Exactly. We'll be here again. Patrick, any shout outs from you?
As always, I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org, and I blog occasionally at carswithcords.net about my future free from fossil fuels.
There's the website right there. Go check it out. See what Patrick's writing about today. Well, it's not every day, but see what's in there today. And with that, if you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up in the video, press that subscribe button, and we will catch you next time on The Tesla Life.